Good evening, good afternoon, and good morning. This is the 1733rd day of continuous webinar conducted by International Forum for Promoting Homeopathy. Today, our guest is Dr. Anjani Behani. Let us begin the session with 1 minute silent prayer. Thank you all. The International Forum for Promoting Homeopathy comprises of homeopathic lovers, students, and doctors. We have 3 sessions every day. The first session of the day is already over in Hindi from 7:30 to 8:30. From 8:30 to 9:30, we have an international session in English, and from 9:30 to 10:30, a local language session in Malayalam. We are uploading the videos of the same on the very next day itself, so that those who miss the session can watch it again. You can share it with your friends without paying any money. And the purpose of this forum is to take homeopathy to every house around the world. And we have presentation from 65 countries, and doctors and eminent personalities from all over the world has presented different subjects. And today, let me come to the guest of the day. As you know, Dr. Anjali Behani, she has completed VHMS and then MAPC, CGO, and CGC. And she is presently working as an expert, a lab quality at Health and Diagnostic Lab. And she was the next vice president, vice principal, Impact Paramedical Health Institute, and ex-assistant professor, Sanskrit homeopathy pharmacy, and currently the subject matter expert, lab quality at healthcare diagnostic labs. She's an enthusiastic person who is always very much interested in counseling and is doing a wonderful job in that way also. With the post-graduation in counseling psychology, worked with paramedical and medical institutions in delivering medical training, also certified as a POCSO trainer by IMA and a certified genetic counselor as well. We all know that today a very important subject is being discussed here, that is hypothyroidism, clinical aspect for diagnosis, and this is a very, very important subject. We have a presentation from different doctors over the subject about hypothyroidism, and all those things. But let us wait and see what Dr. Anjani Behani has to say about all these things. Welcome, doctor.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. And just give me a second. I'm just sharing my screen.
It's visible.
Yes, sir. I'm audible to everyone.
Everything fine. Everything fine. You can go ahead.
Okay. Basically, today we are taking up a topic, hypothyroidism. I'm not taking complete thyroid gland simultaneously because it is a vast topic. Hypothyroidism itself is a very vast topic. I won't be talking about the therapeutics. Basically, I will be talking about the diagnosis and how homeopaths, with the help of this diagnostic mediums, can actually work good in the field of hypothyroidism. Reason behind hypothyroidism nowadays is not only a hormonal disorder, it is a lifestyle disorder. And a lot of cases are coming up just because there are some lifestyle issues which are coming up in the patients, and that is why they are turning up into hypothyroidism, basically, which is not a inborn hypothyroidism or some deficiency also. This could be because of just lifestyle issues. We would be discussing hypothyroidism. What is hypothyroidism? As we all know, hypothyroidism is decreased production of thyroid hormones. Thyroid hormones, basically T3 and T4, which are produced from the thyroid gland, these are not properly produced, and the quantity of is not sufficient for the body to regulate the metabolism. And since these hormones regulate the body's metabolism, though ultimately the deficiency could lead to slowed metabolic rates, and as well as various systemic effects. Systemic effect because this hormone is somehow controlling our digestive system also, neurological issues, like neurological system also, and many other issues could arise because of the deficiency. That is why we are saying it produces systemic effects. Regulation of thyroid hormone secretion. Basically, there are two important hormones, which is T3 and T4, and it is controlled by hypothalamic pituitary thyroid axis. Hypothalamus basically secretes thyrotropin releasing hormone, which stimulates the pituitary, anterior pituitary gland to release thyroid stimulating hormone, which ultimately stimulates thyroid gland to produce T3 and T4. TSH also promotes the thyroid growth and also the iodine uptake. Like TSH is not a direct thyroid gland hormone, but it has most significant role in production of T3 and T4 because it is going to monitor the production of T3 and T4. Also, the body's uptake of iodine. Whatever food items we are taking and whatever iodine we are taking, it is going to be absorbed in the body with the help of TSH, as well as the growth of thyroid cells is basically held with the help of TSH. And hence, TSH is an important part of thyroid gland. The thyroid gland synthesizes basically T3 in active form and T4 in inactive form. This T4 basically moves to the tissues and cells where it is required, where there is a receptor of T4 hormones, and it gets converted into the T3 form, which is the activated form. In majority, T4 is circulating in the blood, and it gets converted into T3 form when it reaches the peripheral tissues or the cells. When T3 or T4 levels are increased, it sends a message to the hypothalamus to decrease the release of TRH, and ultimately TSH is also decreased, and hence the release of T3, T4 is stabilized. This is how the regulation occurs. This prevents excess thyroid hormone production and maintaining a homeostasis. If we talk about, this is basically the negative feedback mechanism. Thyroid gland hormone secretion is being regulated by a negative feedback mechanism as and when T3, T4 concentration in the blood is sufficient enough, a negative feedback goes to the hypothalamus and pituitary gland, and hence the TRH and TSH secretion is reduced, making the thyroid gland informed that now the sufficient amount of T3, T4 is present in the bloodstream and the excessive secretion is not required. I have specifically taken up this image for discussion. Reason behind the importance of iodine uptake in our body when we talk about thyroid issues. Recently, coming across a lot of cases where people have shifted to rock salt or pink salt, not knowing the impact on the thyroid gland. As we know, earlier goiter was the most prevalent disease in Himalayan regions. Reason behind no exposure to iodine, no exposure to food which was rich in iodine, and the people were suffering from iodine deficiency, thyroid issues, which was goiter. And in those, at that time, government came to know that we need to include some fortified foods which could be easily available to the people, and we could reduce the incidences of goiter. And at that time, fortified iodized salt was introduced into the diet of common people. And but currently, due to a lot of wrong information, or you may say sensitization through different social media platforms, people have stopped using iodized salt in hope that it is not a necessary part, and pink salt and rock salt are more healthier. But ultimately, these people, we have seen a lot of cases which have seen sudden rise in the TSH values and decrease in T3, T4, because once the iodine is decreased, as we can see, GI tract absorbs iodine, which basically moves into the thyroid gland and produces more monoiodothyroxine, tyrosin, and as well as it later on, with the help of thyroid peroxidase enzyme, it converts into T3 and T4, which basically moves through the cells and works as a metabolic hormone. So if iodine is not properly introduced into the diet, this will lead to the disorder of the iron deficiency thyroid issues, and we could prevent it just by introducing proper counseling of the patient and just introducing iodine in their diet once again, without even giving any medicines. Definitely, homeopathic medicines will work on the symptomatic relief if the patient is also complaining of some specific symptoms, and we start giving symptomatic relief to the patient, as well as including like as we talk about maintaining causes, And if we remove that maintaining cause that the patient is not taking enough iodine, then definitely we could work on completing the iodine dosage in the body, and thereafter T3 T4 will be compensated, and the thyroid issues will be covered up. Factors which can affect the thyroid hormone regulation. Stimulating factors, any cold exposure basically increases the TSH and TRH secretion. Pregnancy. In pregnancy, there is a higher demand for thyroid hormone, specifically in the first trimester. Reason behind, the mind development of the child is working up. And if in this condition, the TSH levels are tend to go physiologically on a higher side. Low T3 and T4 levels, ultimately when a disease condition is forming, the thyroid gland is not properly functioning, and T3, T4 levels are low, then again TSH hormone will increase, and this will work to increase the levels of T3 and T4. Inhibitory factors, that is, we were talking about the negative feedback goes to TRH and TSH. Whenever the T3, T4 levels are high, it will send a message to the brain, hypothalamus and pituitary to decrease the decrease the secretion. Stress is ultimately a very important factor in the control of thyroid secretion, because thyroid TSH being a hormone which is very close, which is located, which is secreted by anterior pituitary, and the close location with the factors, brain related factors causing stimulation, and also when it comes to anxiety and stress, these factors increase, basically sends a message, and again affecting the cortisol levels and the prolactin levels, and ultimately leading to also affecting the secretion of TSH and TRH. Certain drugs like glucocorticoids, somatostatins, and dopamines, which are generally used in cases of anxiety disorders and depression, also leads to inhibition of TSH secretion. That is why in a lot of cases of depression or anxiety, who are or also epilepsy, who are undergoing treatment with allopathic medications, lands up into hypothyroidism. In those cases, again, we could remove maintaining causes, give symptomatic relief, and guide our patient for dietary management, without even working for thyroid gland directly. And the patient will recover from the thyroid issues as well. Symptoms for hypothyroidism. I have divided the symptoms systematically, including the general symptoms also. A reason behind it, we may or may not see every symptom in the patient, but a few of the landmark symptoms may tell us that the patient could be a thyroid patient. Definitely, in homeopathy, diagnosis doesn't matters a lot, but in current scenario, our patients are more aware than us, and they have already self-diagnosed them of a lot of things. So actually to tell them that what they are suffering from and the clear-cut diagnosis to be told is somehow very necessary in current times. And that this basically, because we are not very dependent on diagnostic tests and we are working on with symptoms, so knowing the symptoms like deeply, it will help us in diagnosing the case and give give our patients a clear picture, and will improve our conversation with the patient, as well as the confidence of the patient also gets heightened when he or she understands that my doctor has understood my condition as well as my symptoms. So general symptoms, the most commonest symptoms of hypothyroidism, which are weight gain, despite the patient has decreased the diet or doing a regular exercising, but is not able to lose weight and continuously getting weight gain. Cold intolerance is a very prominent symptom. Patient will say that we could take it as a chilly patient also sometimes, but in hypothyroidism, it is a symptom that the patient is not able to tolerate cold, or he or she feels cold, unusually cold than a normal person. Then puffy face, dry skin could be a few of the symptoms, but not necessarily very remarkably present. Fatigue could be there. Even you could also find leg pain, which is a very common symptom in females. But to rule out hypothyroidism, definitely we need to rule out other symptoms also. Coming on to digestive symptom, a very, very common symptom in hypothyroidism. I have myself diagnosed a lot of cases with diagnostic medium and with the only symptom of constipation. A lot of patient will, specifically in males, there are a lot of cases where there is no weight gain. The chronic symptom is only constipation and the patient has a slow metabolism with high cholesterol levels. In females also, when the female are reaching their menopause, they are in the perimenopausal ages, their thyroid disorders are tend to basically increase in those ages. And if the patient already has a tendency of high cholesterol levels and constipation, we could look after the thyroid hormone levels also. Decreased appetite may or may not be present, but constipation and high cholesterol levels are very, very commonly found in hypothyroidism. Neurological symptoms, depression. Because of medications, depression patients may land up into hypothyroidism. But in cases of hypothyroidism, depression could be a symptom also. I have seen a case when I was in my college time, a case where there was a severe hypothyroidism condition and the patient was having severe depression and hallucinations. We were working, definitely symptom similarity and lot of things were done for the patient. But I'm just telling you a very common symptom could be there when we talk about neurological or psychological issues is depression. Brain fag, that is memory issue. I'm not able to concentrate or remember things. Could be a symptom where thyroid can be ruled out. Slow speech, muscle weakness of cramps. This could be also related with other vitamin deficiencies, which could be there along with thyroid issues. But depression and brain fag could be common symptoms. Cardiovascular symptoms, generally in thyroid patients, the heart rate is on a lower side. Blood pressure could be high, could be low, not a very prominent symptom. But you could see when the patient wakes up, he would be saying that there is a puffiness around my eyes. That could be a symptom of hypothyroidism. Also, there could be swelling in the legs. There is medicine with a symptom that the patient feels like that he is walking on mattress when he is walking barefoot. That could again be a physiological symptom related to thyroid issues also. Hormonal and reproductive symptoms, specifically in female of reproductive age group with irregular of hair or heavy menstrual cycle, we should always rule out thyroid disorders. Decreased libido and fertility issues could be related to other hormonal issues accompanied with thyroid issues, but irregular menses should be always be ruled out for hypothyroidism. Hair and skin and nail changes, patient complaining of sudden hair loss and hair thinning could be a thyroid issue. Hypothyroidism, dry brittle nails accompanied with vitamin D and calcium deficiency could be a hypothyroidism accompanied with vitamin and mineral deficiency. Pale or yellowish skin could be a symptom because because deficiency of thyroid hormone leads to a lot of metabolic disorders, also deficiency and in absorption of iron levels, which again leads to anemia. So hypothyroidism related anemia could be a issue causing a pale or yellowish skin. Myxedema, which is a basic condition known as severe hypothyroidism also. In extreme cases where hypothyroidism is not treated, could be a life-threatening condition with confusion, extreme fatigue, low body temperature, swelling of face and tongue, and difficulty in breathing. This difficulty in breathing basically arises because there is a swelling of face and the tongue gets swollen and blocks the airways. And that is why the patient suffers from difficulty in breathing. Next is types of hypothyroidism. Basically, based on the cause, we have divided hypothyroidism broadly into 5 types. Primary hypothyroidism, secondary hypothyroidism, tertiary, subclinical, and central. When we talk about primary hypothyroidism, primary hypothyroidism is basically primary organ is thyroid gland. When that thyroid gland is not able to produce sufficient amount of T3 and T4 hormones, then it is known as primary hypothyroidism. Hashimoto's thyroiditis, it is an autoimmune disorder where there are some autoimmune antibodies and which basically are not letting the thyroid cells to work properly to produce T3 and T4. It is known as Hashimoto's. Iodine deficiency, as we talked earlier, iodine is the most important factor in the diet for thyroid related issues. If it is not sufficiently supplemented into the body, definitely thyroid hormone will not get produced because T3 itself is triiodothyroxine. That is three molecules of iodine are required for the formation of T3. If it is not there, definitely T3 and T4 will not get formed. Post-thyroidectomy or radioactive iodine therapy, a lot of cancer cases of neck cancer or oral cancer who have undergone radioactive therapy may have problem after of leading to hypothyroidism because the radiation may have affected their thyroid gland also. Or in cases where the patients have been given radioactive iodine therapy or post-thyroidectomy in cases of thyroid cancers also. In those cases where the thyroid gland has been removed or distracted, in those cases, ultimately it is a primary hypothyroidism because thyroid gland is not there. Congenital hypothyroidism, where there is a condition by birth, the thyroid gland is not very underdeveloped. Drug induced, where lithium or amiodarone or other medications we were talking about, basically the medicines for epilepsy, depression, anxiety, and stress. Allopathic medicines for these conditions affect the thyroid gland a lot. So, if we came across a case who was being treated by allopathy for a long time for these kind of disorders, we could think about to rule out drug-induced hypothyroidism first, to remove the limitation factors and remove the effect of the allopathic medicine is very necessary at that time. In Hashimoto's thyroiditis, in iodine deficiency, homeopathic medicines can work for in Hashimoto because it is an autoimmune thyroid issue. Allopathic medicines generally don't work. They only start giving substituting T3 and T4. But because we could work more efficiently by improving the immunity, vitality of our patient, we could work more better in these kind of conditions. Similarly, we could improve the iodine absorption of the patient by improving the vitality of the patient, vital force enhancement, and that will help the patient more. In cases where already the thyroid gland has been destroyed, congenitally not formed, or we cannot work very efficiently because definitely their substitution or basically a supplementation of thyroid hormone is required. Drug-induced hypothyroidism, again, we could be better than allopathic medicine. The allopathic medicine is nothing else, T4 hormone artificially provided to the body. But we are not willing to give that. We have to improve the immunity of the patient, the vitality, vital force to reactivate the formation in the body itself instead of supplementing from outside. Next comes the secondary hypothyroidism. Secondary hypothyroidism is basically the condition where the thyroid gland is working, but pituitary gland is not properly working. And then hence the TSH secretion has been decreased. Due to that TSH stimulation being decreased, the T3, D4 secretion decreases. This could be because of pituitary tumors, any injury caused to the brain leading to decreased supply to the pituitary gland, and a condition Sheehan syndrome, which is basically postpartum commonly, where the patient has lost a lot of blood during delivery, and it affects the blood supply of the brain and the pituitary gland and leading to decreased secretions of prolactin and pituitary related hormones, which is prolactin and TSH basically, which has very much impact on the body's metabolism. Next is tertiary hypothyroidism. Tertiary hypothyroidism is the third level, that is where hypothalamus is affected. It could be a hypothalamic tumor, it could be a brain trauma, or any congenital defect where the hypothalamus is not working. In pituitary cases, where there is just a tumor, we could work very efficiently. Benign tumors can be cured with homeopathy very efficiently. In cancerous, where the growth of the tumor is very rapid, where we will have to look with, we could associate with allopathic treatment and work simultaneously for a patient for early release. We could work that way, or definitely a best single simple medicine selected on symptom similarity could work miracles in these kind of cases. Next, next is subclinical hypothyroidism, which is the most commonest condition in these days. Subclinical, where the patient is not having symptoms, just having a report in front of him where the T3, T4 levels are normal, but the TSH levels are elevated. Patient come in panic. Oh, I'm just young patient of 22, 23-year-old, suddenly having TSH levels on a higher side and T3, T4 normal. Have I landed into hypothyroidism? Do I need medication? This is the basic fear in those kind of patients, because general notion in general society is once a medicine started for hypothyroidism cannot be stopped, but it is not the case. And definitely if no medicine has been started, he lands up with us for homeopathic treatment, we could prevent any medications further. We could prevent the patient to lead into T3, T4. And in these cases, medicine with proper management, proper iodine deficiency treatment, and lifestyle management, stress management, decreased digital exposure at night time will definitely have. Why I have specifically stated decreased digital exposure at night time, I'll be taking it up in the coming up slides. Central hypothyroidism is a broad term which we use when it comes to secondary or tertiary hypothyroidism, where brain is basically affected and because of which the message is not going to the thyroid gland to produce proper thyroid hormones. And in those cases, we use a broad term, central hypothyroidism. Clinical evaluation, when a patient is with us, definitely he would be showing some symptoms. But along with that, as a clinician, we should rule out dry skin, slow reflexes, swelling in the neck or neck region. And it could be, in a lot of cases, it could be easily palpated near the below the hyoid bone. You could actually feel the mulberry type, like a rubbery type of growth below the hyoid bone if it is a case of hypothyroidism, where the gland is working efficiently to improve the secretion of thyroid gland. Then for puffy faces, low heart rate, which could be clinically assessed. The patient may know or not tell you these symptoms. Definitely, these are not symptoms. These are to be clinically assessed. Blood test, as we all know, there are a few tests which we could conduct for the patient. T3, T3, T4, total T3, T4, TSH and T4 testing could be done. Basically, the primary testing, the commonly available tests are T3, T4, total and TSH. If we find that TSH is getting highlighted, the TSH is getting increased, but total T3, T4 is normal, we could go for FT3 and FT4 to further analyze the condition. And in cases where only TSH is high, FT4, FT3 is also okay, total T3, T4 is okay, we could also rule out autoimmune disorders, which is with the help of anti-TPO antibodies, which is basically an antibody produced against the thyroid peroxidase enzyme, which basically which helps in iodine absorption and conversion of that iodine to thyroxine. So we have to rule out that the patient is not produces any auto antibodies. In this case, we have to we are ruling out Hashimoto's thyroiditis. Antithyroglobulin antibody. Thyroglobulin is basically a glycoprotein present in the thyroid gland, which is basically, you could say, a surface or a medium in which all of this T3, T4 conversion happens. If the thyroid globulin and antithyroglobulin antibodies will start making up, this medium for all this activity will get reduced and ultimately leads to decreased production of T3 and T4. So we have to rule out that antibodies also. Thyroglobulin, it is a very specific marker which is basically used in thyroid cancer cases to monitor the recovery of the patient. As homeopaths also, if we are dealing with these kind of cases, we could show our patient a recovery by just doing a blood test of thyroglobulin instead of going to multiple radiological findings. We could only monitor the progress of our patient with a simple test, thyroglobulin, which is a typical cancer marker test for thyroid cancer test. This is I have made this chart just to like a brief of what is hypothyroidism, how is hyperthyroidism being analyzed. Whenever there is a elevated FT4 levels, generally it will be related to hyperthyroidism. And wherever there is a decreased level of T4 secretion, we have to rule out hypothyroidism. But in a lot of cases, this could be mismatched. Reason behind, there are a lot of metabolic activities going in the body. If FT4 is elevated and we find that there is basically we are the upper part is not visible, I guess, if it is to you. TSH is elevated and also the FT4 is elevated. Then we will say if it is a clinical thyroid condition. It is a hyperthyroid condition. When FT4 is normal, only TSH is high, then we would consider it as subclinical hypothyroidism. When TSH is high, but FT4 is decreased, it is specifically primary hypothyroidism. You could study this chart later on, and basically my purpose for this chart is to rule out that it is not necessary that always FT4 will be decreased to have hypothyroidism. There could be conditions where elevated FT4 can also show condition of primary hypothyroidism. Okay. Next, non-thyroidal issues which can lead to euthyroid syndrome. In these kind of condition, the patient may have TSH levels higher or inappropriately finding that the thyroid levels are getting affected because of some other acute or chronic illnesses or starvation. When the patient is not provided with a proper diet and he has a lot of nutritional deficiencies, then also euthyroid syndromes can occur. Abnormal thyroid function test results are common in patients with both acute. In those conditions, we have to basically treat the chronic illnesses the patient is suffering from instead of totally focusing on thyroid issues. However, due to severe prolonged diseases, plasma FT4 levels tend to decrease and TSH concentration may be normal at that time because there is no underlying thyroid issue. The body is not able to cope up with the sickness it is going through. It could be chronic illnesses like starvation. It could be in the cases where the patient has been bedridden for a long time, post-stroke cases where the patient may be having nutritional deficiencies because of not taking proper meal, and ultimately the thyroid levels are getting fluctuated. In those cases, our motive is to symptomatically treat the chronic condition, which will ultimately improve the thyroid condition of the patient. Now, because why does this happen in these kind of condition? Due to starvation, the protein concentration in the body decreases. Ultimately, the T4 levels have to be bounded to the glycoproteins to work efficiently. And if it is not present, it will definitely affect the body. In cases of liver disorders, there is a deficiency of hepatic D1 dehydrogenase. Basically, this hepatic D1 dehydrogenase works in converting T4 to T3. And if it is not properly being obtained due to liver issues, then again the thyroid functions will be deranged. Diminished hypothalamic function due to other stroke or blood supply related issues to the brain, then again thyroid issues will be different, will be present. Thyroid functions in pregnancy. Thyroid functions in pregnancy, basically plasma T3, T4 concentrations increase during pregnancy because the thyroid binding glycoproteins are increased during pregnancy. And hence T3, T4 are also on a higher side. Even the placental HCG, beta HCG, which we call as beta HCG, and TSH have similar subunits. And because of that, also the TSH levels in pregnancy tend to increase, ultimately leading to T3, T4 levels on a higher side. But this secretion is actually required by the developing fetus and the mental development of the fetus. That is why the levels at pregnancy for T3, T4 and TSH are different from a normal female. And we have to specifically rule out any deficiency during that period can lead to a mentally retarded child also. So we have to look for thyroid hormones during pregnancy efficiently. Now we during first trimester, it is generally being observed the levels are on a higher side. With growing body, basically the fetus as develops, the levels tend to come onto a normal limits. Okay, I have already told late in gestation, the TSH concentrations are more reliable. T4 levels may decrease by third trimester. But in pregnancy, where there is a diagnosis of hypothyroidism, primarily it is a gestational hypothyroidism. In those conditions, it is advisable to also rule out anti-TPO, any autoimmune thyroid issues, because it can happen that if it is a male child, it could get transferred to the child also, and the child may also have autoimmune thyroid disorders. So if we are specifically suspecting a thyroid disorder during pregnancy, we have to rule out autoimmune thyroidism at that time, just to be safe for the child, and we could prevent it with the homeopathic medicine. As I have discussed here, that if it is a male child, where there is a female suffering from a hypothyroidism, it has been seen that there is more genetic recurrence of male progeny to have thyroid issues. Not with females. If a male is suffering from hypothyroidism, there are lesser chances of having a female or a male child having hypothyroidism. But if the female, that is the mother, is suffering from hypothyroidism, the male child is 50% prone to having hypothyroidism. That is a genetic recurrence. As I have been studying genetic counseling also, we have came across cases where in female patients having hypothyroidism transfers hypothyroidism into their child, and in young ages also the hypothyroidism related symptoms are being observed, and diagnosis could be done at early ages to prevent further deterioration of the condition of the child. Factors affecting thyroid function test. Neonates and infants generally have a T4 level higher than the normal people. Normal TSH levels may be seen in central hypothyroidism because there is no rapid correction being happening. And pregnancy, phenotime therapy, these all can cause normal TSH levels, but the patient is having thyroid issues. TSH value, this is a specific condition because I am working with a diagnostic lab. I come across this condition a lot of times where the T3, T4 are quite normal, very normal, but the TSH level is less than 0.03, very low. This is basically a specific genetic condition where there is a presence of a specific molecule for TSH, and a lot of scientific machines are not able to diagnose this condition, and they give a false picture of hyperthyroidism. In these cases, we need to correlate clinically more and also get it re-verified with other labs, and also we can do further testing like rule out autoimmune thyroidism and everything. But in these kind of variant cases, we can ask the laboratory, or we can go to a different laboratory to rule out the machine issues, because this is a specific genetic molecule which is not being detected by a lot of diagnostic machines. Presence of autoimmune disorders may lead to spurious results of thyroid hormone. In autoimmune disorders, there is not necessary that T3, T4 will be disturbed, only TSH could be disturbed. We are not able to diagnose in those cases. In a lot of cases, T3, T4 may show a lot of variation, a very low value, but TSH is normal. In autoimmune disorders, we need to be more careful. As homeopaths, reason behind, we could be of more use to the patients. Because in autoimmune disorders, allopathic medicines have no use. They will not give any medication unless the TSH or the thyroid hormone levels are fluctuated. But homeopathically, on symptom similarity and patient's general picture with we could say, with proper case taking and analyzing the patient, we could prevent further deterioration of the patient and landing into hypothyroidism condition before even having proper symptoms. Drugs influencing thyroid affects, as I already told, medications which works on anxiety disorders, epilepsy are more prone to cause thyroid disorders. This point I will basically be insisting on is circadian and diurnal variation. In whole of our body, there are only two hormones which are secreted from pituitary gland and specifically show circadian and diurnal variation. Circadian variation is basically when the patient is sleeping at the midnight. Basically, in the time when he lands up into deep sleep, the values of TSH tends to go high, and they are on the peak in his deep sleep. When the patient wakes up, the values are tend to be on a higher side, and after 2 hours, when the patient starts doing his regular routine work, the values decreases. So there are many of the cases where we could find a high rise of TSH levels in early morning sample collections. In those cases, first of all, we need to rule out diurnal and circadian variation. Circadian is nighttime, midnight rays, and diurnal is when the person starts doing his regular routine work, the values start decreasing. And specifically taking up this point is a lot of patients are being wrongly diagnosed with hypothyroidism just because of this circadian variation, where the patient is having no symptoms, only his TSH has come onto a higher side. Maybe a allopathic doctor start giving him medication, assuming it to be a hypothyroidism condition. But in those conditions, we could just ask our patients to wait for 15 days, modify his diet, his lifestyle, and decrease the digital exposure. Coming back to that point, why I was using this word earlier, if a patient who uses at night time, he is using his mobile, laptop, or something before just sleep, his sleep will not lead into a deep sleep at early phase. It will take some time to land up into deep sleep, and he will be waking up in a disturbed manner because his sleep is not properly being accommodated in the span. And when he wakes up, the circadian rhythm is all disturbed, and it will affect the TSH levels in the morning hours, causing a false high rise. And in those kind of conditions, the patient are more prone to landing up into hypothyroidism because the digital exposure actually hampers with the stress, anxiety, and mind relaxation of the patient. And if the patient is not properly being relieved, stress relieved, anxiety relieved with the proper deep sleep, then definitely TSH hormones will get affected. And that is why I'm again and again saying, if we are treating a thyroid patient, we need to guide him to avoid any digital exposure at least 1 hour before sleep to have more good impacts of our medication for thyroid issues. T3, T4 are basically bound with our plasma proteins. So ultimately, any chronic liver disorders or any disorders where the patient is having treatment for hormonal treatments or taking OCP or something, then again the thyroid levels could be misleading. Specifically in cases, nowadays people are very proactive to go to gym. Young age group who are going to gym and they are taking supplements, a lot of variety of glucosteroids, anabolic steroids. In those cases, we can have these thyroid disturbances. We have to first rule out what they are taking, and no, instead of telling them that you are a hypothyroidism condition, we should tell them you are a subclinical case of hypothyroidism and you need to modify your lifestyle, your food intake, and everything to basically control this thyroid issue. Total T3, T4 levels are physiologically raised in pregnancy and patients with steroid treatment for anything if they are going through. But for us, definitely we have to jot down that steroid. We have to decrease the steroid intake, staple down that steroid intake, and improve the lifestyle of the patient with homeopathic medication for symptomatic relief. I have taken a few cases where we could actually understand with only reports how could we diagnose what kind of a case is this. Here we could see that the T3, T4 levels are on a lower side and TSH is on a higher side. And this could be a clear-cut case of subclinical or primary hypothyroidism. Why subclinical? Because T3, T4 have not fluctuated yet. Only TSH has fluctuated. And even if there may be a chances in next 15 to 20 days, if we do a recheck, the T3, T4 may be decreased further and it may land up into primary hypothyroidism itself. Next cases where only T3 is decreased, T4 is normal, TSH is high. These are very specific cases where allopathic medicines are not going to work. Reason behind, allopaths are going to give only T4 hormone. And here the patient is not requiring T4 hormone substitution. He is requiring T3 hormone substitution. And in these cases, we could help the patient by homeopathic medication, where we are not substituting T4 hormone. We will be giving symptomatic relief. Instead of hormonal medications, we will be giving symptomatic relief and lifestyle modifications with increased intake of iodine related food. One more thing I would, this is basically a case of primary hyperthyroidism. I would like to discuss, there are a few things which are goitrogenic food items. Goitrogenic food items are those food items basically which inhibits the absorption of iodine in the GI tract. And if our patient is very more like taking those goitrogenic things, then also he could land up into a hypothyroidism condition. Those goitrogenic things, would be naming a few, like spinach, mushroom, peanuts, and also brinjal, the ladyfinger. These are a few goitrogenic items if the patient, also soya bean and mushroom. The most prominently affecting ones are spinach, soya bean, and mushroom, and also peanuts. Commonly used in our diet. Even many a times the patient is not directly taking soya bean, but taking soya bean oil, refined oil soya bean. And he will be saying, "No, I am not taking any soya bean," but indirectly he is being taking soya bean fats, and it will affect the absorption of iodine levels. So we can also we could guide the patient on the diet, that you need to avoid these items so that your iodine absorption improves and your thyroid improves. Also, we have a specific requirement in these cases that the patient, at least in night time, should not be taking these things, because at night time the thyroid gland as well as the pituitary gland is more active in producing the hormones. If it could produce sufficient amount in the night time before in for the day to be sufficient enough, then it will be a less of an effect. So definitely, if night time the patient starts avoiding those specific things, it will help him to recover quickly. This is again a condition where T3, T4 is normal. Actually, are you able to see the time of collection I have written in the above?
Yes, yes, yes,
Yes.
yes.
So I have specifically taken up this case where T3, T4 is normal, TSH is mildly increased, but the sample was collected early in the morning. And this could be a case of circadian variation or subclinical hypothyroidism if the TSH levels, with ruling out the circadian variation, if we get him retested after 15-20 days, 2 hours of waking up, after 2 hours of waking up, then we could rule out that it is a subclinical case or a circadian variation case. A lot of cases come in labs where a patient has done a test at 6 a.m. The TSH level is very high. He had done another test after, like, at 12 p.m. or something in another lab. And he raises a query that why this variation is. This variation is possible. We have seen 50% of decrease in TSH levels in single day. A sample collected at 6 a.m. and a sample collected at 10 a.m. There could be a variation of 50%, though in labs we are seeing a variation up to 80% also. But as per the recent researches, it has been acknowledged that 50% of variation could be there. So first of all, instead of diagnosing the patient with hypothyroidism, we should first of all rule out that is it because of the circadian variation. It is more common in these days because the patient is using digital appliances in the night time, not having a very sound sleep, leading to the issues of TSH increase in the morning hours. Next case, this is a pregnant female, 30-year female with 2 months pregnancy, and T3, T4 levels very good enough. You could say T4 is almost on the highest border, but TSH is still high. This is a specific case of pregnancy-induced hypothyroidism. The patient may or may not require thyroid supplementation. We could just monitor the patient for a few weeks. We wait for 2 weeks in these kind of cases. If the TSH levels are not subsiding, homeopathically, if we are treating, we don't need to substitute anything. We can control it with diet. with lifestyle modification and homeopathic medicine if the patient is showing some symptoms as well. Specific case of hypothyroidism. This is a typical case of hypothyroidism. T3, T4 very less, primary hypothyroidism, T3, T4 negligible, TSH very high. T3, T4 negligible, TSH very high. A typical case of primary hypothyroidism where the thyroid gland is not at all producing T3, T4 and TSH. Basically, the brain is trying its best to implement the TSH secretion. In these kind of cases, we also have to rule out any thyroid gland pathological changes. If there are no pathological changes, in those cases, homeopathically, we could help out the patient. Like any congenital issue of non-development of thyroid gland or something. If we are not having those kind of issues, definitely homeopathic medicine with lifestyle modification and iodine substitution in the diet homeopathically we could treat these cases. And this is a clear-cut case of, you could say, a myxedema also, because there are T3, T4 almost negligible. And TSH is very, and your patient will come with a lot of symptoms. You will be able to clearly pick up the picture that this is a case of hypothyroidism. In this case, I have taken this case specifically because the T3, T4 levels are low, but TSH is also not very high. This could be a case of central hypothyroidism, where the brain is also not able to produce sufficient amount of TSH to invoke the T3, T4 cells. And hence the T3, T4 levels are also not increasing. Primary भी हो सकता है, this could be a primary case also, but more chances are that this is a case of central hypothyroidism. Next, again, solely T4 is decreased and TSH levels are rising. Again, a case of primary hypothyroidism. That's all. Any queries, any questions?
Yes, doctor, it's really a very good session indeed. And we really have a different session from you. Though there are many presentation on thyroidism here, hypothyroidism here, but your presentation was really an excellent, exemplary, brilliant one also. Usually, we get a lot of thyroid cases, but actually, we know that I'm a person who is living in Kerala, and we have a lot of coastal area. But still, most of the people used to take this fish regularly. But the thyroidism, and not only that, people are taking a lot of iodized salt nowadays, but still the hypothyroidism in a very, very high level.
Yes.
But when we took the case in detail, we can find that most of the people have suffering from mental stress, and that is the basic cause rather than the iodide salt. But still, people are being given a wrong direction that it is because of the lack of intake of iodine salt is the reason. But frankly, it is not. What's your opinion on that? That needs to be cleared because.
That is true, sir. In current scenario, iodine deficiency is a lesser cause for hypothyroidism. Mental stress, digital exposure, non-proper sleep, not taking proper sleep, not relaxing the mind are the major causes for hypothyroidism these days. And definitely, we have labs. Actually, I'm working with a lab chain, and we are working with South people also. And recently, we have seen a spike of cases of hypothyroidism as well as diabetes in South Indian regions. And that is basically due to stress and lifestyle disorder.
Exactly. That's what we need to say in a better way, that it is a lifestyle disorder rather than
Yeah.
iodine deficiency disorder.
Hmm.
That's what I would like to say. Dr. Ranjana Raj, do you want to speak to Dr. Anjani Behani? You can speak now.
Okay, hi, ma'am. So
Hello, ma'am.
actually,
Yes.
it's a very informative session, ma'am.
Ma'am, you are not audible. Your voice is very low.
Hi, ma'am.
Yeah, yeah. Yep.
Actually, it was a very informative session. Can you please suggest some therapeutic for each cases, ma'am? Especially
I do
Hashimoto's.
understand this point, ma'am, but actually I'm not practicing right now. I'm
Okay.
basically working in as a counselor.
Okay,
I'm
ma'am.
more pro towards mental psychological issues, and I'm been taking genetic counseling as well as. So
Oh,
I
great.
have not been using homeopathic medicine. That is why in the starting of the session itself, I told that I won't be discussing any therapeutics. But
Yes,
there
Great,
are,
great.
yes, Dr. Ranjana Raj, if you search IMBH homeopathy at YouTube, you can find a lot of presentation on
yes, yes, yes,
thyroidism and where you get a lot of medicines for the same. And there are a lot of cases being cured with homeopathic medicine, and not simply managing the case, but total cure, the absolute cure, the so-called cure by definition. That has been
yes,
happened with the homeopathic medicine. You cannot think such a cure anywhere in the world other than homeopathy. So much
Okay.
of that is a treasure. We have a treasure of medicines with us, and we can
yes, yes, yes.
definitely cure these patients. I have a case of not a hypothyroidism. It's a case of thyroiditis with more than 100 100 milligram TCH level was that was above 100, but still we were able to cure totally with, and it came down to 1.5 within 2 years, just 1.5 half years. That's the beauty. She is now taking no medicine. That's what homeopathy can do. If you
Yes, sir.
make the case in detail, what is the cause behind the illness, and you then find the right remedy, and then you prescribe it blindly. No, you can believe, you can definitely believe in your medicine. That will work, and that's what I would like to add to this session.
Okay, sir. One more thing, ma'am. When I just joined the class, you were discussing about the Himalayan rock salt, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Is it good or not? I just didn't get that
My
clearly.
point was, if you are taking other sources of iodine, it is good enough. In North India, the other sources of iodine are very low. And the government specifically fortified iodized salt, they started because of that reason. So people shifting to Himalayan rock salt is basically decreasing their iodine uptake. Because that
Okay.
iodized salt is Himalayan rock salt is not iodized. We are not getting any branch which is providing us iodized Himalayan rock salt. It is not bad. It is good for actually hypertension people. But if it is a North Indian person who is not taking a lot of fishes and everything which are good in iodine diet, then it becomes a problem for that person.
Okay, ma'am. Okay,
If you are taking other sources of iodine, then it is good enough. Then you can
okay.
continue with.
Okay. In our Kerala market itself, it's available today.
Yes,
I saw
yes,
it
yes,
recently.
yes.
I just thought of
Yes.
that. It's good or not, I think. Okay.
Yeah. Yes,
For
then you can definitely.
hypertensive person, it's good, right?
Sorry?
For hypertensive person, Himalayan rock salt is good.
Yes, yes, yes. For hyperthyroidism, it could be good, but we have to first of all rule out what is the cause for hyperthyroidism. Again, it goes to central, primary, tertiary levels. And if it is some, basically some brain related issues, then we have to rule out those first. Then only reducing iodine uptake will not work out.
Okay, okay, thank you. It is the time for winding up the session. I am inviting Dr. Rambarasa sir to say a few words as well as vote of thanks to the session.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Dhanesh, and congratulations, Dr. Anjali. Anjali Bihani.
Yes, sir.
Very, very thanks, Dr. Anjali Bihani, for her valuable and informative presentation on hypothyroidism. Hypothyroidism deficiency and disbalance of electrical disbalance and lifestyle disbalance. The electrical disbalance after harmonial disbalance T4 and T3 decrease and suffered hypothyroidism. So very, very thanks, Dr. Bihani, behalf of IFPH whole team. Very, very thanks again.
Thank you, sir.
Presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Rambarasa.
Many kinds of medicine, Dr. Ranjana Raj. Iodium. Iodium is a very good remedy. Deficiency of iodium. And
Sir.
calcarea carb, constitutional remedy. Garphitis. समझे ना? तो
Yeah.
thiodinum, very
Okay.
good remedy. Thiodinum, Sarcoat's remedy, very good remedy. Thank you, very, very thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Rambaresa sir and Dr. Anjali Behani and those who attend the session in this evening. With that, we come to the end of the day 1733. And tomorrow we will have a session from Dr. Rohit Sharma from Canada, and we'll be talking about stress, sleep, and mental health, homeopathy's role in emotional well-being. Thank you all. Good night. It's over to Dr. P. Shaila to moderate the Malayalam session.